hello, everybody. Welcome to Soulful Sunday. Wow, I am so grateful to, we're on Solutions with Aquarius Rising Africa, of course. So I am so grateful to have back with me again, beautiful Andi Bond. How are you, Andi? So good to have you back. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm grateful to be here. Doing well, hanging in there, feeling very grateful about a lot of things. And so, yes, I'm very glad to be back.
Yeah, I mean it's been a while since we've chatted because and I know you've had some changes in your life. I was also going through some things in my life, so it's really just good to connect. I think it's been what 2-3 months now since we last actually spoke. We have spoken off air, which has been wonderful, and but so happy to have you back. So today we're going to talk about the more about the Cherokee culture. Now, we know if just for the viewers, for those of you who haven't seen our previous interviews with Andi before, please have a look at them because Andi is also one of the overcomers from that has gone through the depths of hell and is here to tell her story. Done so much healing in the last few years. So it's such a pleasure to talk to you because you're one of these that went to the East and actually discovered the Eastern teachings and the secrets, the missing links and the secrets of the Eastern teachings as well, which you've also done some previous interviews on. And we're definitely going to be expanding that in the future. But you are part Cherokee. Which was one of the reasons that you were targeted to be taken into the system, right? Although obviously you had amazing gifts and things as well, which would have also been a reason that you were targeted. But I just love the first world tribes and culture. You know, here in South Africa, we obviously have the Khoisan, the Bushmen, and we've done a lot with the Australian first people as well. And I just thought today would be such an amazing opportunity to talk with you about just telling us more about the Cherokee culture. What is it about? You know, what does it represent? What is the spirituality? Just from your side, from your understanding, your perspective. It's really interesting to know this, and I know it's got such beautiful, deep-rooted core connections, so to speak. So really looking forward to hearing more about that. So enough about me, enough from me, rather. So over to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Chantelle. Yeah, it's very interesting, my whole journey. I always say that I I really love and I feel it's very much a part of both Indian cultures, quote unquote, the dot and the feather, I always say. Um, and I've spent a lot of time, devoting my life to those studies. And the really interesting thing that I started to learn when I actually traveled in 2016 was very interesting. I had an opportunity to go over to India and study with some monks and basically essentially monks and people that were considered very holy or like saints in India. And I was considering joining their organization and then decided that I wanted to have a relationship in life, but you can't really do that if you're in that type of a lifestyle. And then I was given an assignment by my teacher that has been teaching me, for like 15 years about meditation and the study of the knowledge from ancient India. And he gave me, because at that point I basically had not a lot of money. I had pretty much given up all of my physical belongings and everything and left them behind. And he gave me the assignment to I launched something called Journey of a Mystical Messenger, and it was like an Indiegogo fund, and I received donations, and in exchange for those donations, I would deliver prayers and intentions to all of the temples that I visited, all of the holy men that I visited, all of the medicine people that I visited. And I started that journey across India, Thailand, and Bali for 7 months. And the reason I bring that up is because I met with a lot of different elders across, across various traditions and various places. And one of the really interesting things that happened was, along this journey, it was basically a walk in faith, because at any given time, I never had really more than $300 in the bank. But I was always, always, always given the perfect amount to go to like the next, like the next step. And during one of those times, I had miscalculated the exchange rate in Thailand. And it was like had way hardly any money. And so I reached out, and and also reached out to some of my clients, and just to say, hey, here's what I'm doing, here's my situation. If you want to schedule a session with me, I could really use it right now, or here's the campaign that I'm on. And I just got the most perfect support. Someone had heard where I was and said, just go get a ticket, go to Bali. Someone's going to pick you up at the airport. And the man that ended up picking me up was one of the elders from the most ancient village in Bali, in the northern part of the island. And on that part of the island are these rivers that all come together, and all of the elders every year meet and they bless the waters in that river. And I was given a place to stay, I was given money, and I was connected to the local elders. And so I got the opportunity to learn some of their teachings. And what I found in Bali is very interesting, because it was very much like a mixture between the knowledge from India and the Native American knowledge, very much. And so
Wow.
I just
I want
wanted,
to just,
yeah.
I just want to say this, sorry to chime in, but that is something so highly ordained. The way I see that is because, as you say, you're just receiving the perfect amount for, and that, when we look at synchronicities like that, I mean, it can only be from God when we have such perfection and such perfect synchronicity. And as you say, then meeting one of the elders coming to actually pick you up at the airport from this tribe, and having the opportunity to learn with them. Wow, that is incredible. I mean, that is what I really just call karma. That is just your karma playing itself out, and just tracing you your steps exactly where you need to be. So looking forward to hearing more about that. Yeah, I'd love to know what you learned with these guys.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that I wanted to point out is just how similar these ancient teachings and cultures really, really are. And across the world, a lot of it is still maintained to this day. And I saw that in Bali. And then I had the blessing about a month ago that has been really something that I've always, always wanted to do, and just had it's been like a lifelong dream of mine to go to the Cherokee reservation and connect with, with that part of the world and that part of my heritage. And I was able to go there with my mom and spend some time there and do some research and discover more about my heritage and about the journey of, my ancestors. And I found out about, my great grandparents who lived in Tennessee and were taken from Tennessee on the Trail of Tears over to Missouri. And but it was just really like a pilgrimage. And the beautiful thing about that reservation there in Cherokee is they still maintain a lot of the traditions. And so a lot of these things really do still exist, these ways of looking at the world and cultures. It's just they've been very much suppressed in a lot of ways, or destroyed in a lot of ways. You see that in India. You also see that in the US with a lot of the younger generations of Native people, because they've been so westernized, and kind of the ancient teachings are sometimes the young people aren't as interested, but there are beautiful, beautiful elders from all over the world that have really held these sacred practices and sacred traditions, and they've kept them safe. They've kept them safe,
I think that I think that's so good to hear you say that as well, because I do believe that, if we're just looking in the world where we're living in nowadays, um, it doesn't take a genius to figure out there's a very dark force that's governing this planet right now, which means that there are these ancient, beautiful traditions with which the earth, I believe, was created to begin with, have been suppressed, most definitely. So it's wonderful to know that there are still people who, as you say, hold that sacred light or that sacred candle, and that you manage to find some of these people on your journey, and I know, because you've spoken about that as well in one of our previous shows, where you've learned with some of these people, and especially in the Eastern teachings, how also they've kept a lot of the knowledge from the East away, like with the yoga teachings and stuff like that. There's a lot of stuff that they've missed out on. So the West is not getting the full picture. And now, when we really go to look at what's going on, then we find that there's so much more. And that is completely amazing. I just love that. And as you say, the Indian teachings, as you say, the feather as well as the dot, connecting and having such a similar teaching, right?
Yeah. And what I found in my study and my speaking with different elders across different traditions, as well as some of the elders I've sat with from South America, you know, our society has changed so much, so much. And it was like the way that people came together and prayed together and lived together is so foreign to us in this, quote unquote modern age. But it was really a beautiful, harmonious way of being in alignment with and in accordance with and with the God's laws, with God, with the laws of nature, with respect, dignity, righteousness, honor, community. Those kinds of things were really built into so many different aspects of life. And a lot of that has just completely been decimated in so many ways, especially culturally. But the beautiful thing
Absolutely.
is, I have been seeing over the last, especially 5, 6, 7 years, across the world, really a rebirth of not well there is a rebirth of some of the ancient traditions and ways of living, and I've just seen like an awakening of God and spirit and divinity among thousands and thousands and thousands of people across many different religions, many different traditions. And one of the reasons that the Cherokee people have been targeted for a very long time for SRA and government programs, my grandmother being one of them, it started is because, first of all, and I have spoken to Cisco Wheeler about this as well. She's Cherokee as well, and she and I have had a couple conversations in regards to the Cherokee lineage and the Cherokee culture, and the fact that the Cherokee tribe has been traced back to one of the original tribes, one of the original 12 or 13 tribes. So that is one of the reasons that the Cherokee people are targeted. You know, um,
that would be their spiritual gifts. And just for those viewers who don't know, and I'm sure our audience is quite awake, but just for those who might not know, SRA is satanic ritual abuse. And obviously it's what the Lucy's do, for details of which is on other videos as well that we've done. But and it's interesting what you say, because as part of the original tribe, right, you would have very strong spiritual connections to the earth, to your ancestors, to nature, to God. And that's those would be the energies they would then be trying to harness, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's the one of the main reasons I was targeted is because of the Cherokee bloodline. And it's very it's well, I don't know how common knowledge it is, but the Cherokee or other indigenous people or certain bloodlines, certain blood types, certain groups of people have sort of very naturally occurring spiritual gifts. And that's definitely true among the native people, the Cherokee being one of them, and
Yeah.
so it's just it's natural abilities, just natural or natural gifts or abilities um, to see
Connect.
or perceive or connect. That's just kind of built in. It's in, and then the other standardized testing and things. I sort of checked all of the boxes as far as IQ tests or whatever different abilities that go along with the natural spiritual gifts. And but I certainly know and have experienced that we all have spiritual gifts as humans. God gave us those, and that's one of the things that many people have kind of been taught through the degradation of culture and the sort of the MK Ultra brainwashing that is the entire apparatus. People have been taught to sort of turn those off or turn away from them. But we all have very beautiful ways of interacting with each other beyond just the five senses.
Why do you think? Why do you think? Sorry, I've got a dove caught in my house here.
Oh
Andy,
no.
please carry on talking. Just give me a minute. Sorry, guys. I want to just let the dove out. Obviously, it's come to say hi, so I'm going to put myself on mute for 5 minutes.
Okay. Well, while Chantelle is, oh, it's a dove too. That's so beautiful. It's a beautiful symbolic representation that a dove flew in. But one thing that I wanted to share, and I can do that while she's away, is I just saw a couple of days ago 15 reminders from the elders. Number one, so this kind of gives a good overview of, let's say the spiritual beliefs or the spiritual foundation, the teachings that are represented by the native traditions. One, get up with the sun to pray and pray alone. Two, be tolerant of those who have lost their way. Ignorance, presumption, anger, jealousy, and greed come from a lost soul. Pray for them to find guidance. Number three, find yourself by your own means. Do not let others make your path for you. It is your path and yours alone. Others may walk with you, but no one can make your way or walk your path for you. Number four, treat guests in your home with great consideration. Serve them the best food, give them the best bed, and treat them with respect and honor. Number five, do not take what is not yours. whether it's from a person, a community, from the jungle, or from a culture. It was not given or won. It is not yours. Number 6, respect all the things that are on this earth, be they people, plants, and animals. 7, honor the thoughts, desires, and words of all people. Never break them in or make fun of them or imitate them rudely. It gives each person the right to their personal expression. Number 8, never talk about others in a bad way. The negative energy you put into the universe will multiply when it returns to you. 9, all people make mistakes, and all the mistakes can be forgiven. 10, bad thoughts cause illness to the mind, body, and spirit. Practice optimism. 11, nature is not for us. It is part of us. She's part of your family and the world. 12, children are the seeds of our future. Sow love in your hearts and water them with wisdom and life lessons. When they grow up, just give them space to grow up. 13, avoid hurting the hearts of others. The poison of their suffering will return to you. 14, be transparent all the time. Honesty is the test of one's will in this universe. 15, keep yourself balanced. You're a mental person, you're a spiritual person, you're an emotional person, and your physical person. They all have the need to be strong, pure, and healthy. So
Wow.
those really are a very good representation of, you know, the underlying foundations of these wisdom teachings that I have had the blessing and the honor to come to study, you know, and be a student of, and learn and teach from through various different perspectives. There was an elder Tai Chi master that I spoke with once, and he said these different traditions or cultures around the world, he said his teacher explained it to him in the way that we're all looking in the same room through a different window. So while one culture may may see, you know, from this vantage point, another one seeing it through a different vantage point, through different lenses, and it's all a reflection of God ultimately. And when you break it down, or what I saw is that it's very similar, almost even before the 10 Commandments existed, that, you know, the underlying principles and values in ancient India, and the underlying principles and values in the Cherokee Nation and other nations across the world were very similar to the 10 Commandments, you know, before biblical times. And then
I was actually going to say that. I mean, if you look at that, it's very similar to the 10 Commandments, really, you know. And really, it's the poison the poison you give someone else is what you really pay the price for at the end of the day. So it's all of these things are so valuable, I think, in all of our cultures, because really, if we all had to live according to that, to those 15 call it commandments, although I know that they're not, I think our lives would be amazing.
Chantelle?
Could you? Am I here? Hello, hello, hello.
We're back.
Okay, not sure what happened there. Yeah, so I was just saying, I think if we all had to live according to that, the world would be an amazing place. It doesn't make you fault free. It doesn't try and make you some perfect being that has no fault or no sin or whatever, but it makes you a human being that's aware of your journey. Really, if you've wronged someone, apologize. If you've hurt someone, apologize. If you need to fix something, fix it. There's a lot of respect in that, right? To sort of go back and actually say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. What can I do? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found in speaking as far as Jesus goes around the world, I've when I come into contact with elders and in different tribes and different teachings, different traditions, there's the ones that I have chosen to um, listen to. First, I do want to say that all of these things have been infiltrated, just like the Christian religion as well. And so, it's a practice in discernment. For me, it was always there's a thing that I can't quite explain, but you see it in certain people. There's that truth has a resonance. There's a certain vibration, there's a certain
Yeah.
feeling to it. And that's one of the ways that I use to guide, to versus, authentic of God teachings versus false light. And when I come across authentic people that are holding true to the culture and the ancient traditions, which are really built around God, really built around um, prayer, really, really built around prayer, about praying together as a community around the fire, about just honoring God and understanding the laws of nature and how to work with them. And built into all of those laws of nature is God. You That's the one thing that Western science tries to separate God from science, that you cannot fully understand the laws of this universe without including God. And prior in very ancient times, everything really was built around understanding these cycles that we go through as families, as communities. It was very much, the children were all taken care of by the women, and the women did their thing. The men went out to hunt and do their thing. And then there were, the elders are and were very respected in the community. There were ways to, when there were problems or issues that would come up, that people would come together with the support of the elders or other tribe members in order to work out disagreements. And most of the time, it was always through a process that involved prayer. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it was just so built into society, and that had degraded over thousands of years so much to where when Jesus
Absolutely.
came, it was much like it is now, that all those things had been lost, everything was dark. And he came to reset it, and not to mention break us free from all of the traps that humanity had found themselves in. And so I suppose part of my message is that I'm a follower of Jesus and Christ, and I've come kind of full circle back to that. But these ancient teachings that existed prior to Christ, thousands of years prior, are very in alignment with
With
the foundations and the values that Jesus taught,
exactly.
and so
Exactly.
yeah, it's just beautiful to see how God has had presence and continues to have presence and will have presence through thousands of years, through thousands of cultures, through thousands of societies, you know.
Absolutely. I just love the way you've said that. I think it's so succinct the way that you've actually just put that, that God has presence through thousands of cultures and societies. And the word of God in its authenticity will be carried through in the most humble way, actually, not through glitz and glam, really. I mean, that in itself, yes, has its purpose. I get why everything is perfect, right? But when you're really looking for the deep spiritual connection, the deep spiritual teachings, one has to be connected. And what you're saying is, through any kind of mediation process that needed to take place, prayer was always uh, precursor, is that the word? The precursor, I'm not sure what the word is, to any kind of a especially challenging meeting taking place. And I think many people probably still do that. But the thing is, how do we pray now? And that's the thing, you know, it's, I think in the ancient times, we really understood a different way of praying, because praying is not about asking and begging and pleading. Prayer is about really acknowledging and having gratitude. And even though we're in a tough time right now, we acknowledge that God lives in me and God lives in you, which is what the Namaste is all about, you know, and that God, as much as what God is working through me, God is working through you right now as well. And that we can find a balance, a solution. So when we recognize that on a deep level, we don't see the other person as the enemy, right? We then see the other person as someone who you can connect with, grow with, talk to, find a solution with. And I think that's really what gives our power back. Because even when we look at the solar plexus chakra, right, which is about becoming solution orientated, because there we store great fear and great terror, so to speak, greed, fear of not having. It's a very dangerous chakra to be out of alignment, because dictators and misogynists will have that chakra out of alignment mostly, along with others as well. But it's really about, instead of seeing the problems, it's about finding the solutions, because that's where your personal power lies, is to find the solution and to realize that there is a solution for each and everything. And I think that's, for me, what really is something really amazing about the ancient teachings, really, right? Because all of them have that understanding.
Yeah. I mean, as far as the native culture, some of the ways that that is facilitated, one is that the fire is really important. You know, there's whenever there's well, a lot of prayer happens around the fire. Literally, the community will gather around the fire, and
Well, you were actually saying maybe because I know that you do a lot of prayer ceremonies and fire ceremonies and stuff like that. Can you explain to us why that's so important in the in the native cultures?
I think, well, first of all, it goes back to the understanding of God's laws of nature. That things, if you go, what you can go outside. Here's the difference in perception. In the Western scientific Socratic method, or you go outside of yourself and you break something down to discover something, right? Either math, or you do an experiment and this goes to that and this goes to that and this goes to that, regarding physics, science, quantum physics, things like that. It's experimentation by outward observation. The native traditions and cultures come more from an internal observation, internal awareness. Connect first with spirit, connect first with God, and then observe from that perspective. And the really interesting thing, because I was schooled in the Western academia scientific approach, and to where I was in engineering school in my undergrad, and then also through this way of learning from more of a realization, or first come up against yourself, deal with your own judgment, your own internal anger, your own internal stuff like that, clear that out so that you can perceive from a clear perspective. And when you study the sciences, even down to the Vedic mathematics, it's saying literally the exact same thing that quantum physics and quantum mechanics are saying today, literally. So the understanding that this world that we live in is governed by laws. it's governed by laws, and those are first and foremost the laws of nature. And so there's great reverence and there's great humility that, you know, I'm not some human dictator that's going to come and just do my will. It's, I'm a piece of the whole, of this divine creation.
Mm.
And how can I show up and be of service in a way that benefits and is in harmony with it, versus here's my will, how do I get it done? And also outside just the, you know, the material five senses, versus like, wait a minute, this is a much bigger picture. How does my soul fit into this? So it, you know, again, it's a very different cultural perspective. But when you see that just basic laws of nature about water and fire and earth and air, and how those things literally operate in a certain way, that, you know, I like to say, I don't care how much you believe or you make a, you know, a vision board, you're not going to light wood with water on fire. It does not work that way. So first of all, it's like putting ourselves back into like, oh yeah, we didn't create this. Something way bigger than us created it.
Yeah.
And when you start to see how it actually works, that life, how full life is, the miracle of it, the miracles, it just brings this awe and reverence and gratitude. And so first and foremost, it's always brought back into that, like, thank you for the plants, thank you for the animals, thank you for the water, thank you for the air, thank you, Creator, thank you, God, for this opportunity to live this life in this form. What a blessing. And so when you're building a fire, it literally requires, you know, there's a way that it's done in there's a way that it's done, and there's someone that actually has the job of being the fire keeper, and they build it in a way that honors all of those things. And you know, they keep it going, and the fire's not just used for prayer, but it's used to keep, you know, keep heat, also cook things. It's very much the heart of the community, so things are more built around a sort of more heart-centered, prayer-centered way of living. And so but also you know, you just by observing the fire and things like that, you, I don't know, you, there's something just really magnificent about it. Like fire is that part of, it's said to be the grandfather in the native traditions. This is the grandfather. It's been around. It's, the fire has like a certain way that it is, and it helps to transform in the natural world. You know, if you want something to go from one state to another state, water, if you want it to go from ice to steam, it goes through various states of being. Of, and you can think of us, we're built of water a lot. So our consciousness, you can think of going from a block of ice, and that fire of the Holy Spirit lights it then to, you know, water. It's more, and then ultimately to steam. That's a process of transformation, and that's honored. It's honored on a regular basis. And then the other thing that's very much built into the society, and the ancient Vedic society, and the native cultures, especially the Cherokee, you know, and uh, is song. The understanding of the songs and praise and worship, and the reverence that comes from singing songs about the divine, about creation. And so a lot of the healing is built around song and prayer and coming together as a community.
It's amazing, because that is really what all the ancient tribes really do enjoy, is that singing, dancing, family, always with fire. I mean, if you look at the African tribes as well, the Bushmen, the Khoisan, always fire. I mean, they, as far as I remember, were the inventors of fire, actually. Um, and I just think it's incredible because it's hugely transformational. It's also the energy of transformation, and it's the element of spirit, so that if we think about when we were conceived, the minute that egg and sperm met type of thing was that divine spark, like that match, that striking, that brought us into existence. So it's that fire element, the spark, the spirit, which is amazing. So when we just look at that, it lights up everything as well. It gives light, it magnetizes, it enables us to see it, and it enables us to warm up, and as you say, melt away that the water, which is the emotion, actually. The water, very often as well, when we've frozen up our water, our emotions, it's like a frozen block. The fire, the divine spark will melt that and let things flow again. So it's really amazing. Yeah, I love that. Fire is incredible indeed.
Yeah, and then another way that fire is used is in sweat lodge.
Yeah.
Sweat lodge is not a Cherokee, originally Cherokee, it's a Lakota tradition, but a lot of native tribes have, adopted other practices from other tribes. And in sweat lodge, first, there's a certain way that you build the fire, but the rocks, like lava rocks, are heated by the fire, and the fire's built by the fire keeper who's in prayer the entire time it's being built. And then, you go into, then the rocks are brought into the inipi, the sweat lodge, and you enter, in a certain order as a tribe. You go in and you pray upon entering, and then there are three. You add the water to the rocks, and it heats up again, representative of the Holy Spirit transforming the water into
Yeah.
steam. And then each round, the medicine man, or sings prayer songs that have a specific resonance to them, that, just like I've explained a little bit in Sanskrit, these ancient languages are very similar. The Cherokee language is very similar to Sanskrit. But everything in creation is vibrating. It's vibrating with sound and light. And so if you look at every single thing on the most subtle level, there's a pattern of sound and light that it corresponds to. And the Sanskrit word corresponds to that exact pattern. It replicates the pattern of the sound, of the vibration of that thing in nature. And so these prayers have a technology built into them where, just like in modern music, it's the opposite. It's like that technology gone awry, used as a weapon against us, that built into, rap music or rock and roll music, or a lot of the music, are actual vibrations that bring about states of emotion that are not great, chaotic states of emotion. You can use sound in the way that the prayers actually bring about a state of well-being, and so that knowledge is shared. And so as you're sitting in that heat, it also represents being able to come up against the difficult things and sit through them and face them. And you offer prayers, and each of the people in the community offer their really heartfelt prayers and ask God to transform these things for you. Ask God, give it to God, give it to God. And so those types of practices are done on a regular basis. And when that is one of the foundations of the society and of the community, it brings a lot more harmony.
Yeah,
People have a place to
absolutely.
go, to release, to feel, to ask, to, and then support each other. And yeah, a couple weeks ago, I just met up with some really beautiful, beautiful people that one of them I think is from either South Africa, but they are musicians. It's a family of musicians called the Family Freedom Band, and we all got together and sang for a whole day. just singing prayer
Wow.
music, and then, you know, sitting around the fire together. And the amount of medicine that I have experienced from this compared to, you know, 20 or more years in the Western medical paradigm, where I underwent 10 surgeries and, you know, 3 brain tumors, and that just kept making me more sick and more sick and more sick. When I started to go back to these ways of living is when I realized that how much healing there is available through the divine and through the heart. Like, that really is where the healing comes in. And as a society, we've become so far from thinking of building our lives around prayer in any way. Like, not everybody, of course, but it's just not like, who has time for that? I got to do this and this and that. You know, we have so much in, and then the music coming at us and the media coming at us, that
Everything. Yeah.
it's a different way of operating. So go pray
Yeah.
first.
Absolutely. It's exactly that, you know, just that morning time. I know anyone who knows me, who's worked with me and my students and things, that morning time, that prayer time, it is so, so important to keep us grounded and connected. And it really, if we don't have that, we really, I don't know how people exist
Mm-hmm.
harmoniously without having that, that's for sure. So it really is an amazing um, tradition, if you will, what you're speaking about. And I know it's like these the ancient traditions do have that. I mean, I know also being in India, um, when I went there, I mean, sitting the first time getting there, sitting on the floor and eating your food and looking around and like everyone's eating with their hands and you like got your knife and fork here. But 2 days later, you eating with your hands and enjoying the culture. I battled to get back into Western society after that
Mm-hmm.
because you become so entrenched. You would know that in the way that the people in those amazing places live, that you kind of take on that
Mm-hmm.
complete energy. I wanted to ask you, and I've actually written it down here. Um, Once you got out of the SRA and that horrible cult that was trafficking you, um, you went on a basically an Eastern quest um, to find the meanings, the hidden meanings, the hidden teachings of the Eastern teachings and philosophies. How healing did you find these teachings for you? Because I know at the moment we understand there's a lot of people coming out of SRA, um, lots of survivors overcomers, lots of people expressing, speaking out, you know, which is amazing. A lot of different people trying to find different solutions as to how people can heal, you know, from this, because I think when someone has experienced those kinds of horrors from hell, it
Mm-hmm.
takes something very special and very, very connected and in tune with God to actually dissolve that programming. So how did you heal, or how did you find these teachings helped you in your healing journey?
Um, they are the reason that I'm still alive. And the teachings that I'm talking about are um, breath practices, meditation practices, song, um, also things like sweat lodge, things like sitting around the fire singing with other people. Um, those were the things. And then also the other thing that's really beautiful about the ancient knowledge, especially India and then the Cherokee tradition as well, is there's tremendous, tremendous knowledge about the healing and medicinal properties of plants and herbs. And so when I was recovering from my hysterectomy, and then I had to have 2 emergency surgeries afterwards, I talked with the medicine people that I had met from Peru, and sat in prayer with, and other elders that I had met in India. There's the system of medicine is called Ayurveda, and it's basically applying these knowledge, the knowledge. Um, Chinese medicine actually developed out of the knowledge that it uses the same thing as Ayurveda. They're like cousins using the same type of information, how the whole body works as one system, where in the Western way of looking at it, it's like our body is like a car that has these different parts that you can just replace. It's not separate like that. The whole thing flows as a system in a certain way. Um, and, but the application of the breath practices for just breathing differently is where I started, and it's the main tool that I used for about 10 years. So the knowledge, the teachings, the things that actually worked for me, there was no quick fix. There was no quick fix. It's a gentle, slow process of awakening, of healing, and in my experience, it's worth it, and God gives everything that that we need each step of the way, and we have to put some effort in. So the practices that saved my life were breathing practices, certain sounds that I would make, certain prayers. So it was a lot of prayer and song and breath and feeding my body good things rather than poison. And so for me, it's one of the reasons I'm still alive. One of the reasons I'm still alive. And so,
I have no doubt about that, which is kind of why I wanted to ask you, because everything in the universe we know is frequency, sound, and vibration. No matter where on the globe you exist, we understand that to be true. At least I hope that people on this channel are aware of that by now, right, guys? So there is nothing more healing than sound. I mean, we have heard countless stories over the eons about people that have been in bad accidents or something, recovering from something, and they've used music to heal people. So I know, I mean, I play the Tibetan singing bowls. I know what that has done to my clients, and how, for me, I mean, my cat, when I adopted her, had hectic PTSD for 3 months from being mauled by dogs. The sound bowls healed her. I'm telling you that now. I could tell immediately. She didn't like it in the beginning, because obviously but it was incredible how that healed. So that whole singing, and I mean, singing opens up the heart, right? That beautiful chanting, the vibration of the voice, of that, just the feeling that singing, that joy that singing gives us is incredible. And prayer, of course. And as you say, feeding your body with healthy nutrition and great things. And of course, the healing occurs of itself, because you really hand yourself over to the divine, don't you? You just kind of let go and let God.
And
Right?
I'll tell you, I've had actual divine intervention as far as my healing goes. I should not be alive, and it's happened more than once. And that's the thing, is where the connection to the heart, the connection to healing the internal emotional wounds, so that you're not acting out in the world from a wounded place. You know, it all goes together. It all goes together. The mind and the body will be saying the same things. A lot of the things that are, oops, are you back? Like,
Yeah.
there's physical, physical scars that can sometimes be coming up due to past emotional trauma. So it's not like one or the other. It's all an interconnected system, mind, body, and soul. And so, um, but again, you know, and the sound and the prayer that reintegrates and re-strengthens the nervous system so that we can hold those dewdrops of grace that are constantly coming in from God. But many times we get so emotionally wounded that it's like our being, our system gets fractured. So even though the grace is constantly coming in, we cannot hold it. We can't hold it,
Yeah.
and it leads to disease in the body.
Yeah.
And so it's all of those things. It's, you know, it's developing, it's and again, it's not an overnight thing. These are the knowledge that I learned and that I was blessed to have shared with me by various elders across the world. This is not a quick fix. You sit every day, and the breath practices,
Absolutely.
for example, is how I got off of pharmaceuticals. You go to a Western doctor, they will give you Xanax. They'll give you something that keeps you in a cycle of addiction, and you never get down to the root wound at all. There's a breath practice that in 3 minutes brings about similar to effects as Xanax, and it's called alternate nostril breathing. And
Mhm.
there's a science to these practices. You know, every 20 minutes in our system, we switch between the right brain and the left brain, right, left, right, left, about every 20 minutes or half an hour. And when the right side of the brain is controlling the body, you will breathe predominantly through the left nostril and vice versa. When the left side of the brain is operative, the breath will predominantly be through the right nostril. That when there's the way that you do alternate nostril is you breathe in, you hold one side and you breathe out and in, and then you hold the other side and breathe out and in, out, in, out, in. And when you
Mhm.
do this for a couple of minutes, it literally physiologically forces the two hemispheres of the brain and the nervous system to come into cooperation. And so it's it brings
Balancing.
about a state of balance and well-being
Yeah.
that is much more effective than a pharmaceutical drug. And so practices like those, that's just one example. Those things saved my life.
Absolutely. I agree. And you know that alternate nostril breathing is you know we do that in our yoga practice as well. It is incredible. And I want to just say, you
Mhm.
know, people don't often take these things seriously because for them this is airy fairy. But I want to say your breath is your fuel. It is your life force that connects you to life or death, basically. And when we're breathing and when we realize just to do 5 minutes of alternate nostril breathing in the morning when you get up and in the evening before you go to bed for a week,
Mhm.
just do it for a week and see what happens. It is incredible. And it's true what you say, because your body's designed to heal itself. It is
Mhm.
not designed to process kilograms of chemicals, because that's literally, I mean, if you think about someone who's taking 10 tablets a day, and a lot of people are, how much that is in a year, right? I mean, it's crazy what we expect our bodies to go through. And here we can just do it in a natural way. And, you know,
Mhm.
especially I love, you know, like yourself, really who should be dead, who's who's been to hell and back, who's had a lot of health issues because of that. And using these tools is something phenomenal. And again, you know, it's a testimony to the power of your breath and to the power of spirit, right?
Absolutely. And the other thing too about breath that I just want to drop in there, and these are things that you learn from, traditionally we used to know all these things as a society, but it's been taken away. But the way that our physiology and the way that our quote unquote mind works, that we have different layers of the mind that are operative and intelligent, even though we're not thinking about it. The autonomic, I believe, nervous system is automatic. Okay. And if I'm getting that, whatever, wrong, it might be sympathetic or parasympathetic, which with the nervous system that is automatically coded, the fight or flight, that part of our physiology is connected to the breath. Subconsciously, unconsciously, it is a set thing. It's a set thing. Emotions correspond to patterns of breath. Okay. Every emotional state has a specific pattern of breath. Think about when you're angry, you breathe a certain way. When you're sad, you breathe a certain way. When you're happy, you breathe a certain way. So when you have knowledge of that automatic, subconscious, unconscious, wired connection in the physiology, you can start to master and take control rather than be drug around like a dog on a leash by your emotions. You can say, wait a minute, I desire, I ask, I pray, I intend to live in a state of peace, a state of compassion, a state in love. So how about I make that pattern of breath that then activates that emotional state within. You start to actually, and when you start to do that, there are scientific studies that have done PET scans on the brains of people that do these practices and the brains of people that don't do these. And after 8 weeks doing practices like this, there is measurable changes. There are measurable changes in the gray matter of the brain. That's where the neural pathways exist. The neural pathways are literally patterns of thought that have been solidified so that if you're just going through life and you're you will act based on your previous ways of acting, your previous emotions, your previous experiences that have been wired into your brain. And the more you can come from a state of conscious awareness connected to the divine, those old patterns that used to be like, if you put your hand in concrete and it dries, it becomes more like a line in the sand first, and then a line in the water, and eventually a line in the air, to where you're not living so much from the wounded past. You're seeing things as they are,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
From that moment of alchemy or healing or understanding. Yeah, absolutely. Wow, what an amazing conversation we've had again today. And as I always say on the show, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
So, wow, Andy, thank you so, so much. This has been hugely informative and really, really appreciate the information. We look forward to having you back with lots more stuff in the future. So, I want to just say to our guests, I know lots of you guys ask for Andy. She's back now. So stay tuned. We're doing quite a bit of stuff with Andy in the future as well. So not sure if you have anything that you want to just end off with after our chat today.
Just thank you. And I encourage people to sing. It was the way I survived LA, literally. It was listening to the most, was listening to music and just keeping it, but it's more powerfully healing than you could possibly know. But be careful what you listen to also. So,
Yes,
but
definitely.
or sing, I don't know, just get together, even sitting around the fire. I just encourage people to um, pray, 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 and reconnect. The other thing too is that feeling of peace, or the connection with God that you get. It's available in every moment. It really is. And we can learn much more through joy than through suffering. So, but and also
Absolutely.
you have to choose it. Sometimes people want to stay in their judgment, or stay in their whatever. You also have to choose to stop indulging in those things, you know?
Absolutely. It's a decision. And, it's like you say, it's not something you just do on a course or a workshop for a week or two, and then everything changes. It does start changing there, but it's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
It really becomes part of your life, because every day you realize the benefit of that, and you realize how simple life actually is. So before long, you're actually doing these things naturally. So singing is an expression of joy,
Mhm.
and really just to go outside and
Mhm.
twirl around on the lawn 2 or 3 times and just say thank you God that I'm alive, in itself is a beginning. It's where we
Yeah.
start. So just that expression of joy to be alive. If you have a body, if your heart is beating, and if you're taking a breath, you have a purpose, and there's a reason for you being here. And many of us don't understand what our purpose is. We feel like lost or alone, or got nothing to do, no money, no income, a burden on others, whatever. That is so what the
Mhm.
consciousness currently is about in many, many instances. But like you're saying, Andy, when you just take the time, it costs you nothing to
Mhm.
sit, to breathe, to pray. And prayer of gratitude. Thank you for what I
Mhm.
have. Thank you for my family. Thank you for this chair I'm sitting on. Thank you for the fact that I am
Mhm.
able to watch this and get information. Thank you for the fresh air that I'm breathing, for the trees that create oxygen for me to breathe. Just things we take for granted. That's all.
Mhm.
Start with that. There's always something to be grateful for, because that prayer of gratitude is really the magical key,
It is.
because that's when everything starts changing, and we realize what we already have, and we appreciate that, and that from
One,
we then
yes.
grow there.
One other thing that, because the truth of the matter is we're living through really difficult, hard times that are heavy. And there's some heavy, dark truth coming out that needs to be seen, or it will not change. It needs to be
Yes.
seen. It needs to be seen. It needs to be heard. And that what will come with that is a tremendous grief process for humanity and for society as a whole. And so sometimes it can feel really overwhelming and like really heavy. And whenever I get to that point, I do a lot of arguing with God. But, I'll go and I'm like, and I'm always reminded, Andi, do you have any idea the number of souls lined up in heaven that would love to be in a human body at this time in history? You're one of them. You're alive. Do it. Step up.
Yeah.
Do it. You're here at this time in history. What are you going to do? That's your gift to humanity. And all of us, we're here. Let's do this. A lot of us that I talk to, a lot of people I talk to I felt like there was something I meant to do this lifetime, and then I don't really know what it is. And now all of this is unfolding, and it's like, okay, we're gonna have to step up and step up big, but humanity wins. God wins. God definitely wins. So step up.
I I totally agree. I totally agree with what you're saying. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better way to end today, is really just to say, and really to understand, you have a purpose,
Mhm.
and all of us have a purpose. And this is such an insanely beautiful, magical time to be around on this planet. I mean, we are
Mhm.
here, at one of the most critical events ever. You know, it's literally the changing of the timelines, the shifting of the timelines. And
Yeah.
it's really amazing to be here and to be part of the process of change. And even though so many people, you know, we have so many viewers there, and they say, what can I do? What can I do? You know, just by being part of a supportive audience, I can't tell you how much that means to us. To especially when we're in this time and we take a lot of criticism. We do. You know, and it's
Mhm.
fine. But it's really when you get a supportive audience, that is already the support that is helping us. I mean, there's many other areas in your life as well, I'm sure, where you are very valuable. But just for what we're saying here, just by supporting and
Mhm.
sharing and speaking with love and respect, you know,
Mhm.
believing the survivors and not getting involved in all sorts of gossip and malicious stuff is really, that's the blessing, right? So it's
Mhm.
so beautiful to be part of that and to know that we are creating this positive change for the world to follow, right? My
Mhm.
granddaughter will benefit from this when she's my age, and that's just beautiful.
Mhm. Yeah, and just even if there's nothing that you feel like you can do, I don't think people understand how much of an effect uh, going into yourself and dealing with your trauma affects everything. More people that can come up against their own internal stuff, that clears the
Exactly.
way to be available for others. So if you feel like you can't do anything, never feel that coming into facing internal things within yourself and your family, those are some of the most important things that you could do, honestly. It really it's profound when someone shifts from a place of living in constant fear and judgment or anger or this or that to a place of peace or not even just peace but a place of compassion that shifts
Mhm.
everything around you and you just don't even realize it. So
Absolutely.
spending time in prayer on self-love, self-care is tremendously valuable, not just to you.
Absolutely. To everyone.
Yeah.
Yay. God bless you, Andy. Thank you
God
so
bless
much
you.
for being part of our Soulful Sunday and chatting with me. It's always such a beautiful pleasure to talk with you. And we will do it very soon again. So stay tuned, guys. Happy Sunday. Happy beautiful day. Happy beautiful evening. Happy beautiful wherever you are in the world. God bless you all. Thank you so much for watching. And we so look forward to seeing you very soon. Thank you so much. Mwah.